Hey there, today we're going to find out if I can repair my 2004 Acura TSX for less than the $7,500 that the repair shop wanted to charge me for that. And if you want to see more of this stuff, like and subscribe and all the YouTube stuff that they say is good. So what do they want $7,500 to repair? Here's a list of the things that I wrote down on their report, but here's also a little video montage of the stuff that I found. So the first step in this process for me was to get an inspection. I don't normally take my car to get inspections just because I normally repair, the basic stuff myself. I'm not an expert auto mechanic. First thing was that I paid $188 to get it inspected. And what I didn't know compared to 20-ish years ago when I was, trying to fix cars for $8 or something was that now with this inspection, I got a detailed multi-page report with pictures of all the stuff that they found wrong, or that they think they found wrong. And so, on top of that, even in the report, there's a bunch of little pictures that show here's the thing that's bad, here's the thing that's leaking, here's the thing that's loose, all that kind of stuff. So they actually tell you where to find it on the car, and there's even little animations in here. I don't know, you can't see them in here, but I got the report on my phone, and I could, print out little animations that say this is what the tie rod end is, here's what the brakes are, blah, blah, blah. So on top of that, they gave me a detailed list of repair of all the stuff that needs to be repaired and the cost of each one to replace or repair it. And so all that stuff added up to $7,535. And so let's get to work and see if we can do better than that. First up was cleaning the engine. There's a note that says it's not a full engine detail. It's just cleaning the engine, get the oil off it. Nobody wants to work, in gooey, sticky, oily stuff. So they wanted $87 to do that. I paid $12 for a gallon of Purple Power engine degreaser. You spray it on their engine, hose it off kind of with a little bit of pressure. Actually does a pretty good job. So I'll put the difference here of what I saved at the end. And so here's my column of what they wanted. Here's the column that what I paid. And obviously my labor's free, even though it doesn't feel like it should be. And I'll put the delta here, money saved, money paid, and what the quote was. So that'll be fun. Okay, so first one, clean the engine. It's already done. I won't bore you with that. The next one is the transmission pressure switch. The transmission pressure switch was what was causing my little transmission light to flash a D in there in the video montage. The reason I took the car to the shop in the first place is that my little home car scanner that you plug in gives you the check engine light and what's wrong and stuff like that wouldn't tell me what this flashing D was caused by. And so I took it to the shop to get that figured out. And they said it was the second transmission pressure switch. So the shop wants $430 to replace the pressure switch. I paid $79 from AutoZone, and I got one. And so let's see if we can replace it. Is that just a zip tie, or is it a... I don't need to take that off. All right, there it is. Right there. So we'll pull that off and replace it with this one. There we go. Not the easiest thing to get to. If that was the correct pressure switch, I just saved $430 minus 76. So pretty cool. Let's wrap this back up. Yeah, and then this long one goes there. It's handy for getting bolts on, kind of like a screwdriver at first, and then you can finish torquing them down. First. Oops. Air cleaner's on. Okay. Battery, I'm guessing it's like a 10 millimeter or something. So. All right, next up is the ignition coil. The ignition coil was bad, and their report said that my engine, one of the symptoms that I had bringing it into the shop was the thing could barely hold idle. It would, you know, rev up and down and kind of drop and stumble all over the place, and it was really having a hard time idling. And the check engine light came on probably the day before I brought it into the shop for the appointment. So ignition coil, they wanted $249 to replace. I found one at AutoZone for $80, and I actually got a couple more ignition coils from Rock Auto for $33 each. Ignition coil, $80. This is now the second ignition coil that's gone bad, and I have a 4-cylinder engine, and I figured if 2 coils have gone bad, 2 more are gonna go bad pretty soon. So why not do them all at once, and then we don't have to deal with this hopefully for a long time. So let's replace the ignition coil. Ignition coils on this car are under this black ignition coil cover. That's my fancy name for it. So this car is actually pretty easy. The ignition coils are right there, and the bolt holding the number 1 or the number 2 in is actually came out with the cover. And so I think these just come out like that. Unplug the cable harness from it, and that's the bad one. And that's the bad one, I can tell because, well, I can tell the one I replaced is the number 3 because it's really clean. And so number 2 is bad. We can put this in. And I just replaced the number 2 ignition coil that they wanted $249.16 to replace. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace these other 2 since I got coils for that. I just replaced all of them in, what was that, less than 5 minutes? Well, technically I'm not done yet, right? So the screws are not back in. I think I can go ahead and put the cover back on here. Oh, goes like that. Okay, now they're replaced. So let's see if the engine starts. We call that a success for the first one. All right, the next one's a little bit controversial. They said my battery failed an electrical test, and so they have a picture in the report saying, saying the machine says, battery failed. And I'm thinking, that's weird. I just replaced this battery a year ago. And so they wanted $399 for a new battery. I took it to AutoZone because I was a little suspicious because that's where I bought it from, and I might even have a warranty. So if it was bad, I'm going to take advantage of the warranty. They tested it, and they don't find anything wrong. It passes their little machine just fine. And the battery starts the car. I don't notice any problem with the battery, and so I'm thinking, actually I don't know what to think, how it could fail. Maybe the technician was maybe he's in a hurry to go to lunch. $399. I spent $0 for the replacement since I'm not going to replace it, and it looks like it's working just fine. So saved $400 right there. So the next thing I'm going to replace is the oil pressure switch. This is not the transmission oil. This is the engine oil pressure switch. Their report says it was leaking, and so that was part of the, if you see in the video montage I'll put up right here, you can see all the stuff that, there's obviously oil leaking from somewhere. It's probably a combination of the oil pan and the valve cover, and maybe even this oil switch. I'm a little skeptical of the leaking of the oil switch just because there's oil everywhere, and so a little bit of oil on there may or may not indicate that the switch is leaking. But the switch only cost me $4.65 from Rock Auto. Okay, the oil pressure switch is on the passenger side, back of the engine, just above the oil filter. This is the oil filter, and the pressure switch right there. You can kind of see the wire sticking out of that. So let's see if we can remove that. right, so there's the valve cover. It actually comes off pretty easy. There are 6 bolts, and the coils need to come out. Let's see if we can... Yeah, it's pretty... Looks like it just presses into like a little groove on the edge of the valve cover. So yeah, that's pretty stiff. I guess I could see why it might not be sealing very well anymore. There's a new gasket. It's nice and supple rubber, and I've got 4 new spark plug seals. There's one. Yeah, that's super brittle and hard. There's 2. Alright, pan is all nice and clean. Got my gasket. Definitely sticks up a lot more than the original one did, so that tells me this might be the source of the leak, or at least one of the leaks. Oh, that goes in way easier. Yeah, way easier. Put the spark plugs in. All right, we got the gasket replaced. Everything's buttoned up. I guess now we check for leaks. I suppose valve covers don't leak all that fast, so I don't see any evidence of leaking. It looks like the seal's good, so I'm gonna call that done. And so let's go back to our whiteboard and see how we're doing. Valve cover, valve cover gasket, they wanted $275 to replace. I paid $42. Oil switch, oil switch we replaced. That was $4, and we'll round it up to $5. All right, $87 minus 12, $75. 430 minus 79 equals 351. The ignition coils, they wanted $249, and I paid $80, so that saved $169. The battery didn't need replacing, so that's easy to do. That was $399 I saved by not doing that. All right, valve cover, they wanted $275, and I paid $42. That's $233. And the oil pressure switch, $185 minus 5 is $180. Don't need to do the calculator for that. $188. I didn't save anything there, so I guess I had to pay $188 to get it inspected. So we want to make sure we count that. So paid $406 so far, And I saved 75 plus 351 plus 169 plus 399 plus 233 plus 180 equals 1,407. So $1,400 saved in just one weekend. That's pretty good. All right, so what's next is the control arms. Let's see how that goes. Off here. This bolt is quite the pain in the neck because it only turns. There we go. Okay, so the normal trick of just hitting the control arm around the ball joint with a big sledgehammer broke it loose, and so that's all I did. So what I've got to do is I've got this jack underneath the disc brake, and so I'm going to lift the ball joint and the assembly off of the control arm here. There's the old bushing that was the reason for replacing this, and it is gone, yeah. And the new one, obviously much better. And so those look like the same thing. We'll just replace it and get to the other side. All right, we're done with one side. Okay, control arms are done. That was a lot harder than I expected. I'm a little dirtier than I expected, but it really didn't require any special tools or expertise. It's just getting bolts out and getting bolts put back in. So my control arms were $53 each. So that's $106. Controllers 106. So the shop wanted $1,065. I did it for $106. 1065 minus 106 equals 959. All right, so total so far is I've saved $2,356 in a weekend of work compared to the $75.35. That's pretty good. What's left is the tie rod ends, the ring and pinion, and the oil pan gasket. I'm going to go ahead and get the engine extra clean, probably get some more, maybe a pressure washer, that kind of thing. Get it sprayed down and then see if the oil pan is in fact leaking or if there's something else that's leaking before I change it. And so that's it for this video. I will, once I get the results from this, I'll put up a second video to follow up. And thank you. If you liked it, subscribe. See ya. Bye.